Hi there. I'm John Rather, an aging astronomer in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and it's a beautiful fall day here, November 10th, 2017. It's hard to believe that less than 3 months ago we had a total eclipse of the sun that came right here to my deck behind my house, and that is clearly a once-in-a-lifetime event. I want to tell you about it and begin by telling you a little bit about Oak Ridge. I've named this video The Revenge of the Nukes, and there's a reason for that. Oak Ridge was one of the 3 secret cities that were built during World War II for the Manhattan Project, where the nuclear weapons were developed, and it was the key place, the place where all of the materials were produced. After the war, it became a very large national laboratory, and it is now the largest energy lab in the world, Oak Ridge National Lab. So we have a lot of science here, a lot of stuff in our blood, and it's been a great joy coming back here. I started my career here and was gone for a long time, but I've been back now for over 10 years. So we have a lot of nuclear heritage here in Oak Ridge, which means many things to many people, of course. I was inspired before the eclipse, being an astronomer, to prepare a special t-shirt. Here it is. And I was amazed to find at my advanced age that I'm an entrepreneur for t-shirts. I've sold about 400 of them. You know, I said, an astronomer doing t-shirts, well, that kind of makes sense. But then there appeared a very important piece of art, which I happen to have an example of here. And it is by a young astronomer in California, believe it or not, whose name is Nordgren. And he has a website. Turns out that he's a fine artist and has produced a lot of Nouveau Deco type things like this. But I have to explain the significance of what you see in here. Oak Ridge itself, along with the other 2 secret cities, which are Los Alamos, New Mexico, and Richland, Washington, 2 years ago were made a new National Historic Park, and memorializing the Manhattan Project. And this young astronomer artist, Nordgren, is talking about all of this in his script. See the All-American Total Solar Eclipse, the original nuclear power source, the sun, as you see. And the young woman is symbolic too, because during the war, World War II, most of the young men were all fighting in Europe and in the South Pacific, and young women in particular, did a lot of the work at the laboratory that produced the materials. So this was an inspired piece of art, and you see her tongs have the nucleus of the atom, and you see the total eclipse here. And over here in the background, he's put the equations for the fusion process, that the nuclear energy that powers our sun for 10 billion years. We're 4.5 billion now, and so fortunately we've got a long history ahead of us. Anyway, at the bottom you see Oak Ridge, Tennessee, August 21st, 2017 as the topic of this video. Since fall is upon us, it would be a better idea to think about a warm day in August. This is a Google Earth view of the general area where we're going on the center line of the eclipse. And 4 little towns there, all of them about 20 miles apart, looking from high above the Tennessee River there, which is about half a mile wide at least. And we're zooming down toward what's called the Watts Bar nuclear plant there on the left. That's about a square mile with the huge cooling towers, and you can see the 2 reactors, 2 little white domes off to the left. Notice the dam above and in the background, and as we travel in that direction, you can see the big jetty coming out and a barge cruising toward the jetty. Those are enormous barges, more than 100 yards long, and the dam itself is a half a mile wide, with the power plant over on the far side of it. Then as you come to the right, you see the road coming down by the jetty there, and it crosses the road, and on the other side the Tennessee Valley Authority has prepared a nice little park. And I identified this as the optimum place to bring the people who wanted to follow me into the wilderness to be on the center line for Totality. I went down there for 3 different visits before Eclipse Day and took these pictures. You can see the cooling towers in the background and the little beach there, with a very pleasant situation for an August day. Lots of clouds in the sky then. This is a pavilion for picnics, keep the sun off. And it even has respectable facilities, which turned out to be entirely inadequate for the mob that eventually showed up. And there's the big bridge going all the way across the dam, about a half a mile across there. Eclipse Day dawned absolutely beautiful. A little bit of fog in the higher country of Oak Ridge near my house, but I could tell that was going to burn off, and everything looks extremely optimistic at that point. Had to leave the house and go down to the rendezvous point where the people were getting together that were going to follow down to Watts Bar Dam. There you see the power plant. The plume looks bigger than it did before. We were early. We got there about 8 o'clock, and people are gathering both on the water, and lo and behold, a lot of people had spent the night there to get ahead of the crowd, and they were just beginning to stir. And there we have David and Betsy. That's Rob in his usual position. And there Rob is stirring. The pavilion is beginning to operate. People working with food. And Eileen and Dean, other friends who accompanied us down there. That's good. Yeah, looks like you own the place. Yeah. There we have Ayers and Susan down from Michigan to see our eclipse.
With a lid, and you pop it into that, and then you put oil, just a little bit, and you wouldn't think that it would make the popcorn really greasy, but it doesn't, because you shake it with some salt, and it somehow distributes, and it's
and
just
over
like
there
this.
is
Really
Drea,
great,
and from Marin County, California. These are 2 more of my friends, Jennifer and John, and one of their teenagers there. And now the group is assembling, including me, to model the T-shirts.
I saw you all here with this really wonderful shirt, and I just wanted to know where can you get one? Oh no, sold out.
Well, as you see, the crowd developed rapidly. We got there at 8 o'clock, but the eclipse wasn't until 2:30 in the afternoon, and so there was a lot of time to kill, and people got accustomed to really loafing most of the day there, except for good photographers like Pat here, who is a famous photographer in our town and has won numerous prizes for her work, and she's dedicated to trying to get the world's best picture of the eclipse. And there was a great deal of fussing around and trying to optimize things hours before totality. I came down and tried to give advice, as you see. I like that hat.
Instability of the atmosphere at the edge of at totality.
It's the instabilities in the lower atmosphere of the Earth, the statistical fluctuations cause refraction interference, and that's why you see shadow bands. There you are.
Is that for, John? No, 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 no. Take that miserable machine away.
There's Eileen and Dean and Rob all contemplating the situation, Andrea and Ayers. There's Pat and my walking partner, James. We're getting to less than an hour to totality, and I begin to worry a little bit. You notice that the plumes coming up from the power plant are small, but as they go up higher, there must have been a moist breeze blowing, and we have condensation up there. I'm getting increasingly concerned looking at that plume. As we got down to about 20 minutes, I knew that it was time to uproot ourselves and get away from that plume. And so we jumped into a van. Some people elected to stay there, and we'll come back to their fate a little bit later. No, keep going. It's fine.
I want a minivan.
We decided to cross over the road where the bridge is across the dam and drive along by that lengthy jetty down toward the east, toward the power plant, which is on the other side.
What do you think, John?
Okay,
Probably good enough. Pull off to the left there. We've selected a location just at random. All right.
Out we go.
Bail out, everybody.
Good luck, everybody. I'm leaving.
And everybody bailed out. And you see there's the plume, but we do have the sun clear of it now. Heaven help us, I hope we can keep it that way.
Where's my towel?
How much is it now?
That's just a sliver on the left.
Okay. I don't have my glasses, and so I can't see.
Huh?
Notice in that picture the little pink area with the tiny image of the sun. That's a reflection inside the camera, but it's valuable because you can tell from that what the state of the eclipse is, because the sun itself is overexposed.
Oh, you left your glasses?
Yeah.
Where are they?
Sue's got an extra pair.
Yeah. Here, that's running.
Sure.
It's got.
Is it hot?
Take a picture of me.
All right.
There you
I'm getting my sauna.
go. Right. And there's Pat. She left her camera at the other location and decided just to enjoy the experience, lying there on the grass, till someone told her there were chiggers in the grass.
This is right.
This is chigger prevention.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Pat Postma is stronger than chigger.
3 minutes.
Yeah. Look back this way. I want you to see the shadow coming in. Take off the glasses.
Yeah?
Yeah, look behind us. Watch those clouds over there.
This is so cool.
See, now the shadow is coming from over here. Folks, you folks might want to look this way because the shadow is coming from over here.
It's starting to get dark.
See, it's getting very dark here. And see how the light is failing now?
Yeah, on the face of
The shadow's coming.
Yeah.
face of the
this
wall
way.
there.
Yeah, it's really getting darker quick now.
Yeah. Now that's freaky. That looks like a sky.
2 minutes and counting.
Yeah.
I paid $2 for this app.
Yeah.
Big money.
Now you can see that small crescent image in the cloud when you can spot that, and it helps you to identify what's really going on with the sun.
John, you want to use these for Matt?
No.
And there's, what kind of bird is that? That's an osprey. Okay. Poor osprey, he doesn't know what's going on.
Now remember to look for the planets during the darkness.
Okay.
And listen to the katydids or crickets or frogs.
Yeah, you can hear the crickets. They think it's
Crickets,
evening.
they think it's night here.
Yeah.
Quickly dark now.
Yeah.
Camera doesn't do it justice.
See how quickly it's getting dark.
Lights coming on.
60 seconds.
Yeah, lights are coming on over at the power plant.
Shadow bands are coming. Oh, look at that.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad we moved.
See a corona, John?
Yeah. No.
I hope they're seeing
Oh, wow.
40 seconds. Leave your glasses
Sliver
on.
left.
Take your glasses off.
Yeah. Don't wear the glasses now. Take them off. Just don't stare at the sun until it's ready. But watch
20
everything.
seconds.
Yeah.
To see how everything's
Is
getting
that
dark.
a sun? No, that's the rest of the sun, right? That's the
Okay. Here it comes.
10 seconds.
There's the diamond ring.
Wow.
There it is! Woo!
Wow.
Oh my God.
Glasses off.
Oh my god.
That's wonderful.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that corona. That is.
Yeah. I don't see any prominences, but oh, look at the lights on the bridge everywhere.
Oh, everything.
Sunset all around.
It's like a beautiful evening.
Yeah.
It's 2:30 in the afternoon.
Isn't it gorgeous? I can't see any of the planets though.
Oh, you can see Regulus.
Can you?
There's a little spot right there off to your left. I don't know what that is.
Oh, that's Jupiter. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. I didn't see you. Good Lord. Yeah. Can I rest on you a little?
Oh,
bit?
sure, yeah.
Wow.
I'm trying to get a picture up there. I can't hold it steady. You probably.
I don't think you could see him with your eyes.
Yeah, you can see the corona has 2
this a
points on the
video?
right and 1 point on the left.
Is this a video?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
You can see the solar flares. That is awesome.
Is it still counting? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
In this picture, you can see Regulus off to the left. That's a first magnitude star in Leo.
That is just exciting. So, John, the rays that are reaching out,
They're along the magnetic field of the sun, and it's very hot coronal gas.
so it's plasma,
Yeah, plasma.
and it's okay.
Scan down at the power plant and quick turn around with all the lights still on. And turn toward the bridge. Go around this way. Don't take too long. Did you catch that contrail there? That's the NASA airplane tracking the eclipse.
It's lightning over there.
Yeah. See, it's getting light over here now.
Oh, I see red. Oh, there it comes.
There it comes. That's the diamond ring. Yeah. And now it's brightening very, very quickly.
How much cooler is it?
Oh, it's getting daylight again. again.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I love that. Do it again. Do it again.
I think we would have seen an eclipse over there, but I'm really glad we moved.
Well, we'll find out. I thought it was exciting to move. It was Drea's idea.
What was?
To get our asses in gear and get us to move.
I did not want to miss that. Yeah. I was like, if we're gonna do it, we gotta do it now.
We knew what time is going.
Yeah. So we're all congratulating ourselves on the success of our move.
There it is again.
Yeah.
That was so cool that the lights came on.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we were on the other side of the highway, and there's this cloud that's created by that. I know. And it was just sitting there.
Yeah, that's why we rode our bikes.
Yeah. But what happened to those that were too comfortable and didn't migrate to this location? We'll now have to go back and revisit their situation. See the dam. And,
The shadow on the dam.
yeah. I've got to take a picture of that too. This is about 10 minutes before totality. And you can see that the cloud is already blocking the direct view of the sun. It made it easy to get nice pictures of partial eclipse, but it's going to be much too dark for observing the beauty of the total eclipse. At this point, people could have walked really fast down to the crossroads about a quarter of a mile away and been in the sun, but they elected to stay there, and so this is what they saw at totality. Rob, the photographer there, got an unusual picture where you actually saw the little red prominence on the lower right. I'll show you a picture that was taken by a friend that actually revealed it much better. You might be interested in this vertically oriented picture showing the prominence on the edge of the sun and a little bit of the chromosphere, the red ring right above the solar photosphere. It's hydrogen light. It's a very bright, beautiful red. Then there's another video here that I think is worth showing. Some other friends came down from Michigan, and they were at a site near Cookeville in a park south of Cookeville, about 70 miles west of where we were. One of them put their camera down in the grass and propped it up, and it did a strange thing. While the other cameras were struggling constantly, like the human eye, to adjust to the dimming of the light, this one just made a direct record of the failing of the light to darkness, and I want you to see it just because it's very dramatic to see what an enormous difference it is when suddenly the sunlight disappears.
Right there, stars. I see it, yeah. Yeah, can't see these things.
Ron, there's the stars that left of the sun.
No, look, it's like
Diamond ring. Put your glasses on.
Look at it.
It's like a fluorescent light bulb.
At the outset, I gave you a short lecture on nuclear energy powering the sun, and I also reverently showed you the nuclear power plant down at Wattsbar. But what we've seen is that those local plants dominated our experience, and the plumes coming up condensed as though they were irate at the fact that they were being challenged by that thing way off in the sky, 93 million miles away, and we hadn't paid adequate attention to them. And so that's why we suddenly became aware that we were coping with the revenge of the nukes. And I guess for the rest of my life, I'm going to feel guilty about abandoning those others who trusted me to take them to a beautiful site to get the maximum experience. And I did not provide enough emphasis when we decided to move that everybody should get going and come with us, because others were too comfortable. And there's lessons in this, folks. I mean, when you're dealing with eclipses and nuclear power plants, you can't be that smug. You have to take these things seriously. Otherwise, you're going to come up short. And yet, I still take responsibility for it. I'm not blaming it on you. I'm blaming it on myself. And as I sit here in my chair and think back on this several months back, I know that this curse is going to be with me for the rest of my life. It really ends in great tragedy.